I'm Sabrina Cartan, and welcome to Geeks Live, the first in a series of live events brought to you by Geeks for America. Geeks for America is a celebration of wonder and all the great things that it has afforded us. It's a movement of over 50,000 scientists, technologists, artists, engineers, and informed citizens who know that what makes America great is our country's investment in science, research, and the pursuit of truth. Whether you're a geek for science fiction or a geek for science fact or a little bit of both, one thing is clear. At a time when our leaders don't care about the facts, our mission is more critical than ever. So I'd like to start with just a few sincere, albeit cheesy thoughts. Who would we be if we never wondered? What's better, Star Wars or Star Trek? And most importantly, how are we going to avoid a Mad Max future? Now, these are just a few of the things that you might want to wonder about or love to wonder about. But humanity's endless sense of wonder is really important because it's kept us alive for hundreds of thousands of years. You might call it curiosity, you might call it exploration, or you might call it being a geek. Tonight, we the Geeks will be hearing from a few extraordinary humans whose ability to wonder is changing the world for the better. We're thrilled to host two of my favorite people who make all of us at Geeks for America geek out all the time, Senator Mark Kelly and Mythbusters host Kari Byron. But first, we'll hear from a few trusted experts because here we still believe in those. So sit back and relax and make sure you ask questions because we'll have some Q&A. And also remember to give very generously at the QR codes that'll appear on the screen. We have one that'll be for Geeks for America PAC and one for our geek approved candidates. And then also another one for the wethegeeks.org website where you can learn more about our candidates and everything we have going on. Now let's check in with Michelle Finocchi and our friends at Swing Left.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. I'm so psyched to be here with you and to talk about what we can all do to help save the country. First, I'll tell you a little bit about Swing Left, which was started by a group of everyday people from outside of politics who, like the Geeks for America crew, came together to do something because of things that we all care about, things like science and facts and democracy and civil rights and human decency were all under threat under the ascendance of the Trump MAGA movement and the far right. I was on that founding team of Swing Left back in 2016, and we helped flip the House of Representatives in the 2018 midterm elections. And since then, we've grown into an organization that's helping Democrats win up and down the ballot, and specifically win the close races that will break Republican control in Washington, swing the national balance of power, and stop Trump. And we do that by channeling the grassroots energy and resources from everyday people like us into the most strategic volunteer and fundraising actions in the most strategic races. Next slide, please. Yeah, our mission is simple. We're not ideologically oriented. We are for everyone who ultimately wants to help unseat Republicans and stop Trump. And to do that, we make it super easy for people to maximize their impact on the most competitive elections and to win Democratic majorities at the state and federal level. We started in 2016, like I said. We now have over 1 million members. We've raised over $140 million and reached out to more than 50 million voters to help Democrats get elected. And we're still a leading source of volunteer shifts and grassroots donations to Democratic candidates in the most competitive races across the country. So now I'm going to spend a moment talking about the national political environment, which has been shifting pretty fast. I think, as everyone knows, Trump's approval rating is underwater, and in electoral terms, Republicans have been paying the price. Democrats have consistently outperformed in recent special elections, from New Jersey and Virginia last fall to Wisconsin and Georgia this spring. And across all the major forecasters, Democrats are leading the generic ballot going into this year's midterm elections. And what this creates is a real opportunity, not just to win back control of Congress, but to win it decisively. In this climate, Democrats should be on track for both a massive House majority and also a Senate map that's fully within reach. You would think that a big midterm blue wave is coming by listening to the news and so on. But there's a catch, which is that trust in the Democratic brand is still very weak, and that has consequences at the ballot box. Alone, generally, like widespread anger at Republicans or at any political party can deliver big wins for the opposing party, but not the kind that last. Very thin or very fragile majorities are vulnerable to retirements and election manipulation and contested results. And it's also how we get that cycle-to-cycle whiplash that's defined the last decade of elections, with control of Congress and the presidency repeatedly passing back and forth between parties, which you can see represented here on this slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So another thing to know is that after the 2030 census, every congressional and state legislative district will be redrawn. This is called reapportionment, and this has critical implications for the presidential map. It means that the states Democrats have counted on for years will no longer have enough electoral votes to secure the White House. So we're going to have to compete in different places and more broadly. Having Democrats in control of state legislatures where these maps will be drawn is going to have a lot of influence in shaping the next decade of politics. So we at Swing Left are thinking about 2026 as not just winning the House, but as building an opportunity to build the kind of power that lasts well beyond it, into 2028 and 2030, 2032 and beyond. We have to think about Senate races and state offices and what it's going to take to get Democrats in all of those places. That's going to help us to build enduring power. And in fact, I can preview here tonight that we're going to be expanding our map of target races beyond the House in a few weeks, which is very exciting for us. But anyway, the point is that winning in 2026 isn't enough. We have to win big, and we have to win in a way that lasts. And to do that, we have to persuade as many people as possible from across the country, no matter who they voted for in the last election or whether they voted at all, to vote for Democrats now and in future election cycles, in election after election, starting in this year's midterms. So this is our theory of change. By directing grassroots energy and resources to the right targets and the right tactics, we'll transform how Democrats win elections and build enduring power now and in the future. To protect democracy, we need to fundamentally change American politics over the next several cycles. So I'll just speak super briefly about how we choose which races we work on. We do that through rigorous analysis, and we focus on finding the places where grassroots support can truly change the outcome. We consider a combination of factors, including what you see here, just bringing it up, data, electoral context, early infrastructure building, and community alignment. In the House, right now, we're focused on protecting a number of vulnerable Democratic-held seats, and you can go to the next slide. And we're also focused on flipping Republican-held seats in the most competitive swing districts. And I know we're racing through these, so if you want to check out the full list of target races for yourself, you can go to swingleft.org/house. And then in terms of tactics, on the next slide, our signature innovation this cycle is Ground Truth, which is an innovative tech and people-enabled canvassing program that's fixing what's broken in Democratic field programs. We have been working on completely overhauling how volunteers and candidates go out and connect with voters, from the timing to the targeting to the scripts. We're listening first this time around to the canvassing technology, to the data aggregation and analysis that we're doing and talking with voters. Next slide, please. Yeah, what Ground Truth does is essentially focus on starting early and having deep conversations with voters. We're training volunteers to be curious and probing and non-judgmental in their conversations. And the program itself is collecting both structured and unstructured data, which is analyzed and shared with campaigns and state parties and committees. And what this is doing is it's surfacing persuadable voters traditional Democratic campaign canvassing would have missed and producing the voter conversations and the data that will help win votes. So we're helping to build trust at the door with voters and also strengthening the Democratic brand from the ground up. And lastly, how will we do it? This is really all about you, because all of this work relies on people, and Swing Left is all of us. There are many impactful things that everyone can do, no matter your time or your resources, and no matter where you live. You can knock on doors with us by hosting or joining a canvassing event. You can make phone calls to voters in swing districts, or you can donate to candidates directly through Geeks for America and Swing Left's Act Blue page, which I think is accessible via the QR code here. So all that said, join us. Again, it was so great to be with you tonight. Thank you.
Whoa! It was like magic. Just kidding, it's science. Probably science. I don't know how any of this technology works, but someone does. And that's why it's important to support science and technological innovation. Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us. Follow our friends over at Swing Left for more information on how you can get boots on the ground and exercise your civic rights. Next, I would love to welcome a dear friend of mine and fellow Trekkie, Dr. Nola Haynes. Dr. Nola Haynes is a political scientist and policy practitioner whose work focuses on space security, arms control, and emerging technologies. She has many, many accolades and roles in the world that we'll talk about, but you can also listen to her on her new podcast, Nola Haynes is Not a Spy. Dr. Haynes, welcome.
Hi, Sabrina.
Hi, how are you?
Finally.
Finally, we're finally in conversation. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Every day a teaching day is like a really good day because I leave the classroom just completely excited and just energized for space future. That's all.
That's amazing that you talk to students all day and you still feel energized. But I want to get into it. You teach space security, wow, at Georgetown, wow. I got to tone down the geeking. I'm geeking too much. You teach space security at Georgetown, and you've also advised the State Department on arms control. These are very serious topics. Now, I'm going to bring Star Trek into the mix. As I said, you're a Trekkie, I'm a Trekkie. My question for you, my first question is, can electing progressive candidates lead us to the kind of Star Trek future that we all are secretly hoping for?
Listen, anyone that is pro diplomacy tells me we can get a federation. If you move with a diplomacy first mentality, that tells me that we are inching closer and closer and closer to a federation model. But it's so funny because these are things that I absolutely do think about every single day of my life. And Sabrina, as you know, I'm a big Trekkie because my mama was a big Trekkie, so she raised a Trekkie. And I genuinely think about the way that Star Trek has done this brilliant job of bridging STEM and diplomacy. I'm just blown away about that kind of way of living and thinking amongst each other.
Beautiful. So I think we actually have a little extra time. So I wanted to ask you about your podcast because you told me recently that you're a huge fan of, and by the way, this is very much a fandom thing. The Geeks are fans of science, but we also have our own fandoms, whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars or any other fandom. But you said that you were a fan of Jack Ryan, and that relates to your podcast. So can you briefly tell us about how the Jack Ryan fandom is helping, how you're using that to help people understand diplomacy and things like being a spy in real life? You're not a spy though, so.
I am not a spy. I am not a spy. I promise. I promise. So it's actually a really cute story. I'm going to tell it very quickly. So my dad actually believes that I'm Jack Ryan. He really does. And so one day I thought, well, I'll send him this email from the State Department and that he'll really know that I work at the State Department and not CIA. So then he gets this email and he's like, see, this is you're working too hard, like this is deflection. I'm like, no, daddy, I promise you this is a real email. So anyway, so my dad believes that I am Jack Ryan, and because of my professional background, I thought it would be super cute to include that in my podcast title, and also, to have my dad along with me every single time I sit down to talk to an amazing human being, because my dad really is the STEM guy. I mean, when I was growing up in New Orleans, Louisiana, I was in every STEM program you can imagine at Xavier University. So, because my dad worked there. So, shout out to my daddy, and shout out to those parents out there who bring their kids every single summer to STEM camps.
Well, shout out to your dad. Also, I have to say that State Department is a crazy cover for CIA. Like, you're supposed to say, uh, I'm a florist, or, a plumber, literally anything except for something adjacent.
Exactly.
Nevertheless, I do want to ask you quickly about something you wrote in your Substack, hashtag security brief.
Yes.
Check it out. You wrote that, quote, space is hope in motion. And I want to ask you, we have a few minutes left, but I wanted to ask you about why people should care about a new era of space exploration at a time when people are really suffering and worrying about their tangible, like their problems on Earth. So why should you care if you're worried about your day to day?
So, why should human beings care about other human beings jettisoning off into space while it seems like the world is on fire around us? So, I want to draw people's attention to another turbulent time in our country, the 1970s, where we were still having Apollo missions, and there was a lot of drama happening in our country. Our leaders were assassinated. There was the Vietnam War, Nixon, his vice president. It was a lot of instability. People were confused about our futures, and we were also having some economic stress, the way that we're having now. And lo and behold, you get to look up into the stars, and there's that little bit of hope that we are doing something collaboratively, that we are researching, that we are going beyond the stars. And just today, one of my students asked me, "What's my favorite mission?" And I genuinely said Artemis too. Challenger was one of the things that marked my childhood. So to see this collaborative, I was really worried about Artemis Accords and the missions, and to see that Artemis 2 happen flawlessly, it brought the world together in a moment where things were really challenging and really ugly. And not only that, it's not just the hope piece, it's the tangible, substantive things that space gives us. So we got the 1-2 punch of seeing this amazing trip for 10 days that we felt like we got to participate in. But then we also know that those amazing astronauts came back with information that's going to help us leapfrog into the future and to hopefully settle on the moon safely.
Amazing. Well, that's all the time we have for right now. But Dr. Haynes, what a pleasure to have you here. And thank you for giving us a little piece of hope and showing how science and exploration gives us hope and tangible great things for the future. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome one of the internet's most celebrated science communicators, Dr. Raven Baxter, aka Dr. Raven, the Science Maven. Hello, welcome, welcome. How are you?
How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me. Oh, okay. So I guess I'm going to talk now. Well, hi everyone. I am Dr. Raven Baxter. I am a molecular biologist, and I have probably one of the best jobs in science. And for the last 10 years, I've gotten to help other scientists tell those stories online. And I would have to say the last 10 years have also been some of the most exciting times that I've ever lived through, being someone who exists on social media. And so I have some notes to share with you. And that is to explain why I built a mission control for scientists. So we're jumping straight from Artemis right into a mission control concept. So if you'll walk with me, this will be really fun. Okay, Slide two, please. Thank you. As I shared, I've been online for a little over a decade now. You may have seen my music videos. You may have heard of Antibody Yaddy Yaddy song during COVID, or Wipe It Down for public health, which have been really fun pieces of work that I've created that have lasted throughout the years. You may have seen viral threads on vaccines, climate research, etc. Half of people follow me online, and I've watched over these years what happens when scientists show up online at a full volume. And the public, they lean in, they ask questions, they're curious, and they are eager to participate. And I've also seen what happens when scientists do not show up online at full volume. Slide three, please. So we're at a turning point right now for science communication. And that means, right, we get to decide where we're going next. We have huge opportunity gaps. And let's look at some of these numbers, right? Pew Research showed that 89% of Americans think that scientists are smart. Yay! However, they also have identified that 45% of Americans believe that scientists can communicate well. So that is over 40 points in a gap, and that is an opportunity gap. We need to become better communicators, and we need more opportunities to learn how to do that. Additionally, we took a trust hit during COVID where confidence dropped about 14 percentage points. But the flip side of that is it's already climbing back up. We are now at 77% and rising on a rising trend. And so the public, we took a hit, but we're healing. So that is nice. They are looking for us to show up. I think that we're showing up and it's working. We still have some work to do. And then there was a study done by Global Witness, and they did a study covering a few hundred climate scientists, and they reported that 41% of climate scientists report being silenced by online harassment. So they're just trying to go above and beyond their work of doing the research, and they are using their voice online to share with people factual information about climate change, etc. And it has been so harmful and so impactful that 41% of climate scientists have just stopped communicating online altogether. And we don't want that to happen for very obvious reasons. But the good news is that 59% are still out there, still posting, still refusing to back down. And these people also need support and infrastructure. Everyone does. And so this matters for a room like this because the American public decides what science gets funded and what science gets supported, what gets invested in. And I believe that it is the science community's job to really give them reasons to support and feel engaged to support. And so scientists need support and infrastructure to do this, to share what they know with the public, because when they have it, everything changes. The story of science stops being told around scientists and starts to get told by them. And I believe that that is when the public can really start showing up the way that we need to, when the stories come from us and are told through us. And so scientists need a few things, right? We need really good ways to get factual primary sources into people's hands in a way that is accessible to our audiences. No hunting for receipts or hunting for sources or just taking things at face value. We need the evidence in the audience's hands. We also need ways for scientists to navigate nuance, because as we know in science, there are some things that are black and white, but not really. A lot of our information exists on a spectrum. And so understanding how to navigate those nuanced conversations is going to be really important. And then craft. I know that a lot of us scientists did not graduate with science communication training, and that is a huge opportunity gap in our infrastructure in science. And so we need scientists to be trained how to speak to the public, how to prepare congressional memos, how to be in front of the camera, how to script write. I mean, all of these things that are seen as extras are really actually essential parts of the work that we're doing, especially moving forward. And then lastly, community, right? None of this should be done alone. Science is rarely done outside of teamwork, and that includes science communication. We have to work together to fill in all of the gaps, share best practices, and do this all together. And so, what I've done to help be a part of the solution is I built an app. It's called Furvey, and Furvey is the first science communication platform for science on social media. And we are in private beta right now. We are publicly launching this summer, so you can come find us at furvey.com if you want to watch it happen. Bring a scientist along with you. Let's get scientists onto the platform so that we can fill in the gaps and take advantage of some new infrastructure. And then one last thought while everyone is in the room, I want to think about with everyone what the world will look like when the people doing the science are really the ones telling us about it, rather, and when they don't have to fight against algorithms, and when they can exist unapologetically, and when they're comfortable in their voices, and that they feel comfortable developing an audience and doing it in a way that honors ethics and builds trust and maintains accountability for good information circulating on the internet. Think about that and think about what we can do as geeks, as science community members to help cultivate a better future for scientists and their voices, and try to figure out ways that we can all work together to make this possible. So thank you for the stage. I'm really excited to see tonight's show, and I'll hand it back over to you. Thanks, Sabrina.
Dr. Raven Baxter, thank you so much. I can see why people call you the science maven. Follow Dr. Raven on social at Dr. Raven the Science Maven. Geeks, it's time. Let's recalibrate. Let's geek on, get our geek on, because I'm thrilled to welcome our very special guests. We have retired NASA astronaut and current Senator Mark Kelly in conversation with Mythbusters host and director of the National STEM Festival, Kari Byron. Senator and Kari, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, Sabrina, thank you. I think Raven's going to be a hard act to follow with the organic chemistry on the wall behind her. I don't. I got a flag and a couple books, but and Kari, I mean, all of you, thank you for the invitation. Hey, I really care about science. I ran my whole first campaign and the second one, and I do my job based on science, data, and facts. We've sort of got away from that, and especially with this administration, there's been I think a lack of investment in science and defunding a lot of important scientific research. So I welcome you guys to the cause here, and it's going to be great to have more partners who care about these things, because it is really, if anything makes our country great, it is, I think, at the top of the list, the fact that we have supported science and innovation has been what has driven our economy and our success for decades. Got to get back to that.
I can't agree with you more, Senator. I am honored to be here to talk to you, and I think I'm supposed to interview you. So
Yes.
I got some questions for you.
All right.
Senator, you've been a combat pilot, an astronaut, and now a U.S. Senator at a time when science is under real pressure in Washington. What made you want to have this conversation today?
Well, I think it's always fun to talk with like-minded people who are getting involved in a way that I really think is important. I was never, especially as an astronaut, until I met my wife, former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, before she was shot. Didn't really, understand this world all that well. I was an operator, flew off of an aircraft carrier, was a test pilot. And obviously, as an astronaut, I'm also like a part-time scientist in space, for me on the space shuttle and space station. But it's good to talk to, folks that, care about these same issues and want to move the country in the right direction. I feel we've really gotten off track here over the last, more than just this year, over the past decade or so.
I was so excited in the last couple weeks to see the Artemis 2 crew fly around the moon because I came up in a time when space was so exciting. I remember making a cardboard box in my living room that was a rocket ship that I sat in for weeks. I slept in it because I thought being an astronaut was the coolest job that you could possibly have. And I mean, the first humans near the moon in over 50 years. As someone who's flown in space four times, what went through your mind while you were watching that splashdown?
Well, I was also there 2 miles away for the launch. So, I mean, I
Oof.
was there for the liftoff and got to watch that powerful rocket like the space shuttle, even more thrust, like 8.5 million pounds. Space shuttle was about 7.5 million pounds to get Orion and the upper stage um, airborne into an orbit around the Earth, and then ultimately to see those guys. I knew all of them. I knew Reed, the commander, very well. I was in the astronaut office with him at the same time. He was relatively new, and I'd been there for a while. But to see them go all the way to the moon and back further and faster than any humans ever, for me, was really exciting. They made it look easy. It's not easy. This stuff is really hard. And to see him get back home, despite some like real engineering challenges, there were problems with the heat shield on Artemis 1. They took some, I think, smart operational steps to mitigate some of the risk. And the whole thing was very, very successful.
Man, I was nervous on reentry because I could feel that danger. And I had watched a TikTok of the pilot's daughter dancing and talking about how proud she was of her dad. And there's just some serious oh, this is a terrible gravity to the situation. And to see the engineering that it would take, I mean, half the heat of the sun on reentry. That
Yeah,
is mind blowing to me.
yeah.
I imagine that everybody just was breathing a sigh of relief when they were home and they were safe and their families were there to celebrate.
Twice as hot as the heat shield on the space shuttle gets. Because
My
instead of hitting
God.
the atmosphere at Mach 25, they hit the atmosphere at Mach 35, 25,000 miles an hour. And they did this skip off the atmosphere, and it got a chance to cool down a little bit, and then come all the way through the atmosphere. I was nervous too. I was actually on CNN with Anderson Cooper at the time, and I'm really worried about him because I understand the risk. I was involved in the design of Orion, so the capsule, including the heat shield and the parachutes, and a lot of the stuff on the inside too, how all the systems work. So yeah, I was worried about them and their safety and their families, and Reed had lost his wife from brain cancer for years before, and has 2 kids. So, but they did a great job. NASA did a great job, and this helps us do the next thing, and eventually send people down to the surface of the moon. And then one day, hopefully, I'll get to see somebody walk on Mars.
Oh, I mean, I hope that that is in my lifetime. I'd really like to see it. I mean, it's always been really fascinating to me how many everyday transformative technologies from improved heart pumps and digital imaging like CT and MRI scans to life-saving resistant materials that firemen or astronauts or race car drivers wear were all a result from when we went to the moon the first time.
How
So
about how about
considering,
this?
oh
How
yeah,
about this thing? By
yeah.
the way, I have a picture of my granddaughter standing on the moon during Artemis 2. You see that? Thanks to AI.
Yes. I mean, all of these technologies happened because of research and development. And
Yeah.
considering that it's been a superpower of this country to be a leader in invention and innovation, can you tell me why it's so important to support Geeks for America and its pushback on science and tech and space exploration budget cuts?
Yeah, I mean, we need people in Congress that will support these programs, that believe in science. I'd say over the last, couple decades, somehow, inexplicably, we wind up with people here serving in the House and the Senate that just fundamentally don't believe in science and don't believe it's a good investment and are, embrace conspiracy theories sometimes about how things didn't happen and dismiss the science and go with the politics. So uh, your organization is focused on getting, part of it, my understanding is getting the right people here, people that believe in science and how scientific research benefits all of us. Hey, I show the iPhone because the reason that you can fit a computer in your hand like this is not because of like Bill Gates, right? It's because NASA needed to miniaturize a computer to get the lunar LEM down to the surface and back, how to make it very light. Also missile technology. I mean, these investments in the aerospace industry is what allowed a very powerful computer to be in the palm of everybody's hand.
I have to thank you personally because, as proof that science and STEM are nonpartisan, I saw that the National STEM Week bill has passed with unanimous consent. So you were a part of that to just bring light to STEM education. I think that deep down, we all understand that getting kids invested in STEM for the
Yeah.
future is so important, and everybody voted for it.
It is, and everybody voted for it. It's not the same as fully funding NIH.
Yeah.
Calling something STEM Week, yeah, it's great. Everybody got behind it. I would certainly prefer that we fully funded scientific research and didn't gut NASA's science budget. That would be the better thing to do by unanimous consent. That wouldn't happen because the administration, the president, does not support that. These guys have really decimated funding to science through NASA, through the National Science Foundation, through NIH grants, through universities. We have to restore this because, yeah, I mean, yeah, it does cost money, but we get a return on that investment. We get all the money back. It might take 5, 10 years. We get it back in multiples. It is one of the best, I would say, up there with educating our children. Funding scientific research is the best money spent by the government.
I cannot agree more. I mean, the whole idea that science and progress are patriotic. It's not partisan. So, what's one thing that you want everyone to do after they finish watching this conversation?
Well, I think supporting your organization is important, and then getting out there and helping candidates get elected. And if you're not registered to vote, you should be. And you need to vote in your best interest in the things you care about. And then get involved in a campaign if you can, get involved with an organization. Um, and that can really that can change things. We can make progress if people want to get involved. This is not rocket science. It
And it
isn't.
is.
It isn't. It's easier than that. It's just about getting involved and getting behind issues you care about.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me today.
Great talking to you. Thank you.
You heard the senator. It's not rockets, it's civics. Thank you so much, Senator and Kari, for joining us for this conversation. From the bottom of our hearts, we just wanted to say it's okay to geek out because geekery gives us science and technology. And through science and technology and the unique art of wondering, we're able to save lives, enjoy fresh air, clean water, great educations, and connect with people from every corner of our precious world. And we're even able to explore the moon on top of all of that. And in spite of budget cuts and anti-science, anti-truth policies, we still have the power to push back so we can move forward. At the end of the day, we have to remember that we can solve humanity's greatest problems. We can cure cancer, we can solve climate change, and we can fix what's broken in the world. We will always choose Earth, and we will always choose each other. This is the message that NASA astronaut Christina Koch sent from Artemis 2. We have the power to choose each other. when we ensure that science, logic, and the pursuit of truth are at the center of public policy. But we can't grow or change for the better if we're ignorant, if we're covering our eyes and our ears and slashing budgets. Luckily, this country is filled with people who are willing to lead, who care, and are willing to keep wondering and asking and advocating for science and exploration and innovation. Your job now and your effort is to get out the vote to fund pro-science candidates. This mission, if you choose to accept it, will be one where you'll be in great company. So thank you for joining us here at Geeks Live. Remember to visit wethegeeks.org to make a donation or the QR codes that we've been showing on this live stream and learn more about how you can get out the vote during the midterms. Thank you and good night.